Hi guys, how are we doing? Today is the 7th of February 2023. I keep having to think about the date lately and it's frustrated me. So Q&A plus a few of my new favourite things because I know that you like me when I buy stuff and you like me when I share books that I'm reading. So the first thing I'm going to share is a new Tropic order that I've had, I think a couple of weeks now. And I thought I'll unbox it on camera. Because people, oh, they're not my mic then, because people like unboxing things. So this is Tropic. I think I've done a Tropic unboxing on here before, haven't I? The thing about Tropic is they wrap everything up quite nicely. So I'll pop that pen there. Sorry about the rattle rattle. Look at that. You see what I mean about how they wrap it up all really nice? Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll get them out of the box first, and then I will. You know when you forget what you've ordered? Oh, that's interesting. Did I order that as well? God, I don't know. I wonder if that's a free gift. What a free, I think it's a free gift. Well, whatever. Anyway, so look at this. So Tropic is all natural products. She started on the Apprentice, and then I don't think she won the Apprentice, but I think Alan Sugar liked her idea that much that he contacted her after the Apprentice and helped her. And look at this, I got the Body Smooth Refreshing, was it refreshing polish? So this is for exfoliation and it's in a lovely glass jar with a little wooden spoon. It smells absolutely divine, really does. And you can, if you go away with it, you can take that bag with you. So I'll pop that there. Oops, I fell off my chair then. And the body cream. This is the Whipped Body Velvet Cream. Yeah. Do you know, a little secret about me, I've got a smelling issue, as in I'm addicted to smells. So like if we buy anything, I have to smell it, honestly. So, so like shampoo, conditioner, cleaning detergents, coffee. If I'm making coffee, this is what I have to do, pick it up, and then I can do it, tea, everything. Oh, you could literally lick that. It's body moves. Smell it. Some of you can actually smell stuff when I do that. So got that, which is lovely. Pop that back in its box. Well, it's bag, not box, actually, clever, right? And I've got this is super greens because I have rosacea. And this is good for you. They do these little, these little exhalas. Is it exhalas or exhalas? Um, this is the one that I use. See if it focuses in. By the way, I'm on a whole new setup right now. It's my first video with everything. So if I'm a little bit like that, it's because I've got a new camera, new mic, new everything, and it's all a different system. So I'm just getting used to it. But this is what I use on a night because it's quite thick. So what I do is on a night, I cleanse, tone, and moisturize, and then I'll put this on. And this is for the redness of the cheeks, redness of chin, and they do all kinds of different colours. So that's really good. And everything she uses is all natural and it's all made in clean areas. It's all everything from packaging to the full shebang. And have I ordered this? Or is it a free gift? Anyway, that's in the box. This is the range that they do. So I've got the super green. So there's different ones for different skins. Nutrient boost oil, blemish prevention, brightening serum, radiance boosting, omega oil, gradual tanning. So that's one if you want to gradually tan, the brown one. They're really good, really nice. I do like Tropic. I don't use all Tropic stuff. I use a mixture. Like at the minute for my facial stuff, I'm using Lizelle because I do swap about a bit. But I really do love Tropic, and I do keep coming back to Tropic. And I've treated myself to a little lipstick. That lipstick. All men are like that at the minute. And not women are like that. So that's my lipstick. I do like lipsticks. Years ago, when I used to have my platinum blonde hair and everything, before I started going naturally grey, I decided to grow my colour out. I used to love being platinum blonde and bright vivid lipstick, like literally dark eyes, full works. But I've kind of toned it down now. So Tropic. The reason why I'm using Tropic and talking about Tropic in this video is because it's really, really good for you. And it's one of the most vital things you can do is self-care, practicing self-care. Because self-care, remember we've got mind, body and soul, and you don't have to spend a lot. A lot of these places have sales that you can go on and get things, or you get little pieces. You know, you can buy a couple of pieces using your birthday money. Even if it's just buying yourself a Tropic lipstick, or just buying yourself an oil, or just buying yourself a beautiful body cream that comes in a lovely bag like this. It's just anything you can do to bring in a little bit of wellness. So there's a spiritual aspect, the mental aspect, the emotional aspect, the physical aspect, self-care, rest, switching off, downtime is vital. Okay. I have a friend called Emma Taylor, and she has a Tropic shop. Okay, I'm not getting paid for this, by the way. I'm just doing it for a friend, because if you use Tropic, it's always better. But you can get it direct from the website, but I always like to try and use somebody that does it, because basically you set up your own shops and they get commission. So if I'm going to use Tropic, I always try and see if I can get someone's shop and do it through their shop. If you want to order some Tropic stuff for yourself, for a friend, or someone that maybe need to cheer up, I'll put Emma Taylor's details below. So it'll be her shop, I think, is Emma Taylor GOOLE, GOOLE, but I'll put it all in the description below. And if you just put that in, and I think there's a voucher there as well. Not sure of the voucher name. It's on my phone, so I'm looking at my phone. But I'll put it in the description, so you can put that voucher, and I think it's 10% or is it 15% off? I don't know, but it takes quite a bit off. So yes, so Emma Taylor below, and you can follow her on Instagram. So what I'll do is I'll put her Instagram below as well, because anything that we can do at the minute to help small businesses, to help ourselves, we help another small business, and it really works well. Oh, you're gonna love this. Oh. Thinking of small businesses, books are my bag. Choose bookshops, right? We went to Lincoln a couple of weeks ago with my family. I live in Lincoln. Born in Yorkshire, live in Lincoln. Just moved that. And there's a bookshop in Lincoln called Lindum Books. So Lindum as in Lindum. And on the outside of it looks like something from Harry Potter. Okay. You're going to love one of these books. In fact, one of these books, I'm going to be giving it away when I get to 10K on here. And I just love it. It's only small. There's a top floor as well, but I love it. And I'll put the link to it below. And I went in, whenever I go into Lincoln, I always make sure I go to the crystal shop. I always make sure I shop local when I go into the old town Lincoln, just so it's a bit of payback from all the times that we're supported by the universe. So it's how I like to support. So I go in and I go make sure I go to my little local crystal shop, local bakery, local coffee shop. And that's the beauty about Lincoln, is its shops are amazing for local business. So I got this book, The Shift, How I Lost and Found Myself After 40, and You Can Too by Sam Baker. And basically she talks about her experience of turning 40, the shift, how it impacted her, how it affected her, and how she turned her life forward. Because obviously I turned 40 last year, and we know that I have started going into the perimenopause. An early perimenopause. So I am doing all I can at the minute to look after myself, exercise, diet, reading material about people that have gone through something similar. You could read this at any age, because actually I wish my younger self had been more educated about the getting older process, the different decades, because I'd have made so many more better lifestyle choices than I did. So I'll put all these below in the description. I'll save the best till last. Then I got Val McDermid, 1989. And I reckon, from what I've seen, I think this is part of a series. Don't that trigger you when you go and buy a book and you take it home and realise it's number one? No, not number one. We'd love it being number one. Oh, number 100. in the series. You know, like 100 books to read before I get to it. I'm not sure about this. Let me know in the comments. I think it is part of a series, but it's about a crime that happens in 1989. So I got that. Oh, here we go. When I saw this book, I was like, oh, I'm getting that for us. The Boleyns from the Tudors to the Windsors by Amanda Harvey Peirce. Okay. And this is, let me see if it's, is it a short read up I can do? Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, was executed on the 19th of May, 1536. Her sister Mary, rumoured mistress of the monarch, lived on and survived the king's wrath. But this was not the end of the tale of the Boleyns and the British royal family. Their stories have remained entwined almost 500 years through countless wars, crises, and triumphs. And basically, this writer goes in and she traces all the bullet that she traces from the book, oh well, from the Windsors back to the Boleyns and the story. When I get to 10k on here, I'm going to do a live and I'm going to give this book away to one of you, but there'll be more about that. Again, if you want to buy it, if you can't wait that long and you want to buy it, I'll put it in the description below. So the Boleyns from the Tudors to the Windsors, and I'll tell you what, I'm still reading Wolf Hall. I think I'm only looking there because it's there. I think I'm just about halfway. But I have to take my time. Usually I just blat books off, but I've had to really take my time with it. Because yeah, it's interesting. I'm enjoying it. You've got to concentrate with it, haven't you? There's a lot of people to take in and you've got to concentrate. So the Q&A time now. So the Q&A, are we ready? These are the questions, or some of the questions that I've got off YouTube and Instagram. First one that came in was, how did you come to do this work? I'll line them off as I do them. How did you come to do this work? I used to be a dental nurse for about 16 years, left as I got married for various reasons. And I was initially going to go into doing makeup and nails and stuff, but gradually I started doing spiritual training like Reiki. I mean, I'd already done my Reiki attunements years and years ago, but never used them. And I redid my Reiki. And then I thought, right, okay, I seem to be going down more of a spiritual path. So I set up my first business, which was Mystical Garden, which was a spiritual day spa. And I had hot tub afternoon teas, doing facials, massages. I did it all in my garden in the old house. And doing readings, so you could come and see me for a reading and a hot tub and afternoon tea. Honestly, full works. And then obviously COVID came and the business stopped because obviously, and it was like, it's in leisure, so it's going to be one of the last ones to ever open, which it was. And I was like, what do I do? And my guide came to me and he gave me one word and he went, YouTube. And at the time I was terrified of speaking on camera, terrified, no confidence in camera speaking at all. And I just started doing YouTube videos where just filmed my hands, and then I built up over a couple of days to actually getting the camera on myself, and it just went from strength to strength. And then when actually we could open again, I actually didn't want to, but I did. I opened it up and I think I got a couple of clients, and I was like, wow. And the distance work was picking up, and I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be out in the summer house. I just loved doing what I was doing. I loved the YouTube, I loved the video calls, the distance work. It was less intrusive. So I renamed everything, changed the website, up came Healing for Ascension. And the funny thing was, I think in the January of 2020, I had a dream where I was in my house and a flood came and it took the hot tub and everything with it. And my summer house stayed. This was a dream. And I ran into the kitchen and my shamanic guide was in the kitchen looking out. And the garden, I was like, oh my God, can you not stop this? Can you not stop this flood? Because it's flooding everywhere. The business is going. And he says, be calm, let the business go. We'll focus on the spiritual. And I was like, at the time, this was before the virus, and I was like, what is he on about? And I actually thought at the time, what's coming that's going to destroy my business? Because it felt like a tsunami. And I was kind of edgy about that. And it was basically, he was telling me that the pandemic was coming. So that's how I got it. But I've always had the gift. I think there's a story about me being a baby, being babysat, I think, with my cousin was babysitting an older cousin, and or was it my mum? I think it's two stories that are overlapping. And anyway, whoever it was went up into the attic bedroom because it was a terraced house at Kirkstall, opposite Kirkstall Abbey. And I was up in the cot as a baby, talking, talking. But I've got memories of talking to monks and nuns. So obviously whoever was with me was a bit freaked out at the bit a baby. I was a baby, so babies can't talk. And they whipped me out. They whipped me out of the cot and they took me down because I was talking to spirit first before I was talking to humans. Freaky. How did you become aware of your skills? Born with them, seeing spirit, talking to spirit all my life. I was always aware of them. And I was lucky that I had a family of clairvoyants and mediums and things. So it was encouraged, like as a child, given jewellery to do, like, you know, when you do clairvoyant readings with old people's jewellery. And so they'd come from circles. I mean, my mum predicted Diana's death. It must have been 1995. She predicted Diana's death. She used to do readings with a friend, Edna, in the dining room with the crystal ball out and everything. Not my crystal ball, her crystal ball. And they actually wrote down all this global stuff that was going to happen, and it did. So from being a baby, I was aware, and it was encouraged as well. It was never discouraged. So I've answered that one. Why do we forget our life path when we enter Earth? Because that's the fun. That's the fun. And that's the timeline that we've been on, that we come to Earth and we forget the life path that we're on. We forget it all. It's wiped because that's part of the journey coming home to yourself, if that makes sense. There are many people that are born, depending on where they are on their journey, that are well aware of where they are on their journey, and they just know. But the minute you start tapping, and the thing is, it's not wiped as a punishment, and it's not wiped forever. It's wiped until you're ready. And the minute you're ready, you'll start to reconnect into yourself, and you'll start to reconnect into why you're here. And it won't all boom hit you at first. It'll be layers of an onion. But that is part of the awakening process. It's part of the life process that we come in, and then we've got to then re-find ourselves. It's basically like coming home to yourself, if that makes sense. Okay. What was my awakening process? Honestly, War and Peace. It was probably going on for years. I mean, I was getting wake up calls right from mid-20s, and I ignored them, and it was chaotic. And I got bounced and bounced and bounced and bounced and bounced, and all kinds of crazy stuff. Partying, trauma, rape, all kinds of things going on. And then it was once I'd found a part of equilibrium, and then I met my husband, and then we got married. We went on holiday, went on honeymoon to New York, but we did on a cruise, Queen Mary, and it was a 4-week cruise. So we started in New York and went right up to North Canada. And I remember it was the first time I'd been over the Atlantic. And I remember seeing ghosts. I remember picking up things about the Titanic. I told Gary we're near the Titanic. Gary says we can't be near the Titanic because it didn't time into the speed of the boat and etc. because he's into that kind of stuff. And I was like, no, we're near to the Titanic. Lo and behold, a few minutes later, came over the Tannoy on the cruise. We're near the Titanic tonight, etc. It was just crazy. I was seeing sailors, dead sailors, seeing things in the sky, Edwardian people, all kinds of things. And we got into New York. We got in about 4 in the morning. It was just like, wow, this is amazing. Honestly. And we went on a bus tour, and I remember the bus tour obviously picked us up at the terminal in New York, and then we started the actual tour at Strawberry Fields in Central Park, where John Lennon lived, at the Quarter Building, and on the corner, that's where he dropped you off. And I remember getting nearer and nearer to that, getting more and more edgy, not anxious, not to a panic attack level, but like, boom. And I was never a big follower of the. Obviously, it wasn't as I was going in as a John Lennon fan, and I wasn't a not fan. It was just this weird sensation kept coming over me. And I stood in Strawberry Fields, and John Lennon came in next to me, and I was like talking to John Lennon. And I remember looking at people and thinking, I'm going nuts. I am going nuts because I'm literally talking to John Lennon like he's here, and everybody else was taking pictures and not noticing what was happening. And I remember thinking, there's something for me out there, but mine being blown open right now. And it literally in Central Park, Strawberry Fields, boom, with John Lennon, and that's how it started. And I just became really hypersensitive in New York. Not to a point where I couldn't cope with it. I loved it. I could feel and sense. When I say everything, not the darkness, but it was just wow. It was like being reborn. It was like being reborn. If you think about actually how stimulating New York is as well for sound and traffic and everything and lights and big buildings, it was absolutely amazing. And I don't know what New York is built on. I don't know what about that. I think I've had a conversation with one of my clients about New York and some of the ley lines that are there, but it was huge. And I remember we went to Ground Zero, and I'd always believed in and followed the narrative. And we got onto Ground Zero. Literally, I stepped on, and bear in mind, I was a dental nurse back then. I didn't do this work, and I remember a spirit came to me, a woman, and I can describe her today. I won't describe her, but I can still see her today. And she came straight up to me, and she said, "It was all very convenient, Claire." And this was I put my foot on Ground Zero, and we went round. From what I can remember, we walked around. It was a hot day. I remember it being one of the hottest days ever in New York. But oh my God, we started to walk around it, and I became this really weird sensation came over me, and my mouth went bone dry. And we're talking, even talking about it now, my heart is pounding, and there was no saliva. And I started to, I couldn't breathe. My mouth went, I honestly, like I'd swallowed dust. Right. And I did, it was afterwards that somebody from America actually helped me process this and what I was picking up on. And I remember we walked around it, we didn't go in the museum bit, and then there's like a train station that was put there anyway. I won't go any further. I won't get controversial, I promise. But anyway, it was all very convenient because now they've got the monument, they've got anyway. So I went to the train station. I think it's a train station, and I just was really shaky. But it wasn't like a shaky that I needed to get out. It was like a shaky of, oh, I don't know what it. Well, obviously I do know what it was. And I said to my husband, Gary, I said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I said, but I need a drink now. I don't know what's wrong with me. I need a drink. It was like I couldn't even speak. And literally, thank God we came out. We literally had to run off because there was sweat was just dripping off me. And there was a water vendor just outside the gate. So as I got out, there was a water vendor, and I literally I bought 2 bottles, and I literally downed it. And apparently somebody afterwards said it's because, and I didn't realise this at the time, a lot of people in the vicinity said they swallowed a lot of dust from when the towers went down. So yes, I was picking up on that. And just that whole, I mean, then we were the whole of that honeymoon, I just went overactive. The crown chakra, everything, boom, off. It just exploded. Everything was just coming in. And we then went up to, was it Nova Scotia? And I woke up that morning and I said to Gary, there's something, we've birthed in a really dark area here. I said, I can't get up out of bed. And I said, I don't know what it is. And I had to take my time that morning. I couldn't get out of bed. I had to take my time. I was shaking, even like talking about it. And that day we'd booked a tour to go around the graveyard where the Titanic survivors, where the Titanic bodies were buried. And on the way back, the tour guide says, yeah, so don't quote me on this because I might be wrong on this. I've got my numbers mixed up. But he said something like, oh, yeah, where you guys are all, the port where your ship's docked, Berth 21, that's where they brought the bodies from the Carpathia or wherever the other ships, the dead bodies, and put them on berth 21, 22. I probably got that number wrong. And I didn't cotton, I didn't cotton on. And it was when we were driving up into the port, and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, Gary. I says, well, that's our birth. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. it was just, it was nuts. It was nuts. And I just became so, yeah, yeah, seeing spirit, hearing spirit, experiencing a possession as well. I've experienced a possession. And again, that was it's all been part of my teaching process, because that's how the shaman or the shamanic practitioner, which is myself, learns. You've got to experience it all. So that was clear as well, the possession. And um yes, yes. So it's never I mean, for some people it's a beautiful experience, but for some it's not beautiful. It can be a process of all dark things happening. It's a complex process. It's a complex process. And I reckon, had I not got the healing and got in touch with a shaman that then explained what was going on, started my healing process, started healing shamanism, getting things removed, etc., I'd have probably had a breakdown, because that's why it's so important to look after yourself. Get a sensible teacher. Watch. This is why I go on about sensible content and reading sensible content and watching sensible content, not just watching all the Looney Tunes that are out there. Because when you're like I was, which you will be at some point, you're so vulnerable. You're so perceptive to everything as well, because you're so sensitive to everything. So everything comes in. Yes. Next question. What is a shadow reading? Shadow reading, I think this has come off when I did Prince Harry the other week and I got a shadow deck out. Shadow is our shadow. So when we look at something, say that reading, you're looking at the shadow. So the ego, the fears, the shadow, the underbelly, the lower self. And shadow work is really, really interesting. And shadow work is vital as well. Looking at yourself, looking at why your life's going on the way that it is going on. Why are things happening the way that they are happening? Because it's okay looking at the other side and what are they doing, but it's actually looking at our side as well, which is just as important. So a shadow reading is going into our own underbelly, our fears, our insecurities, our traumas, our pains, our victimhood, our inner tortures, etc., but not in a way to poke them or to make them bigger, but to understand them. Okay. Should you? Oh, yes. Should you let somebody else shuffle your cards in a reading? Nope. Nobody uses your tools apart from you. When I first started out, I did, and those decks I no longer have because I can't work with them anymore. No, your decks are sacred. Your tools are sacred. Do not let other people use your tools. Even if somebody came in now and picked up a spray, no, it's not your spray to use. If you want to use it, you ask. You don't go in and touch. You don't let people touch your stuff, especially if you've got a treatment room. I mean, when I had my treatment room back in the old house, I had an energy in there, that a frequency that when the clients came in, because clients can be touchy, especially some people can be really intrusive. Ooh, what's this crystal? Ooh, what's this drum? And it was asking my guides to stop the little touches coming in. So say if you're a reader and your child is showing that they've got the gift and they want to start reading, what you can do is, rather than letting them train with your cards, you buy them their own deck. So say if I had a daughter or a son that wanted to start doing a tarot, I'd buy them that deck, exactly the same deck. That'd be their deck. This would be my deck, and I'd teach them. So never, ever, ever let other people in and touch because this is you. This is a fragment of you, and this deck actually understands how to work with you. Another person's deck doesn't. So say if you're training, your deck will end up where it doesn't know what to do, because it's that energy, then this energy, then it's an experienced reader, then a not so experienced reader, and then it's with a client, and then with another client, and it's contamination. People can contaminate things really easily. So don't let people touch your tools. Tarot as well. Don't sleep with tarot cards at the side of the bed. That's controversial, that, because I know some people teach that you can put them under the bed. I was taught don't, because if you're like me, where you can easily go active, I can, which is why I dream and stuff. There's nothing wrong with it, because actually it's hard to fully switch off. I have boundaries, which I may talk about later. I'll put boundaries down. But if I had a deck of tarot under my bed or under my pillow, no, that's work, that's a craft. That, because again, the tarots need to sleep as well. So that's why I have lots of decks. That's what I tell myself. That's why I have lots of decks. So as decks are resting, I can use other decks, if that makes sense. So don't sleep with your tarot decks in your bedroom, and even on shelves, because you can start to connect with them. And I've done that when I've forgotten that I've got a tarot deck in the room. Your tarot decks should be stored on an altar or shelves in an energetically clean room and a physically clean room. They shouldn't just be dumped in a bag in the corner of the room. Get them out if it's a mantelpiece, a window ledge, a shelf, a desk, or whatever. If you get somebody to build you a shelf on your wall or whatever. Yes, yes. Don't let people touch it, and look after your tools. Respect your tools and learn about your tools. How did you start a YouTube channel? I told you this. But what else was I going to cover about YouTube? Somebody asked, what equipment do you use? So, speaking of that, I've used in the past, what's that? What's my old camera? Oh, I can't even see it. What was it? A Canon, excuse me. This is my old camera. It's still in use, but anyway. So this was a Canon G7X3, I think it was. The trouble with this camera was it only filmed for 25 minutes, and I couldn't use it as a webcam to put it through Zoom, so I could do longer videos. So research your stuff for YouTube. There's a lot of shit out there that buy this, buy that, and Claire, dipstick here, fell for it all. You don't need to fall for it all. Take your time with picking your YouTube stuff. My advice to an up-and-coming YouTuber, get yourself a decent top spec iPhone. If that's your investment, do it. Because with iPhone, you can film like that, but you can also film like that where it goes into landscape. Honestly, and if you get a decent spec one, the newest one, I know people, when people say get the newest, but for your YouTube channel, if that's all you get, a phone stand and a decent light. I mean, shall I show you my ring light? Oh, it's got too much going on here, honestly. This is where I'll get triggered now because I'll knack my situation up, but did you see it? Hope you did. If you didn't, apologies. Okay. Am I back to where I was? So yeah, that's my recent one. My first ever one was one that I put on my desktop there, and it was just a little ring light. That's an investment that I've just made because it gives me more room on my desktop, and it's bigger, and it's that powerful, that light, that, and you can put different, like you can have it really light and white light and really gold, but it's that powerful, that light. So if I don't have the light on in here, we don't need it with that because it's just boom. Get a decent light, get your iPhone, and adjust a phone stand like this. Sorry, I'm not leaning into you. I'm just getting my phone stand out. Just a decent phone stand as well. Again, I've had all the crappy phone stands in the world, and they don't work, and the buckle and the break, and they flop all over. That's solid, and that you can still walk around with it like that, but you can also change that as well. Okay, so I mean, yeah, you can, but you can just research stuff before you get it, and like this camera that I've got, which is my brand new camera that I'm using now, is a Sony. What is it? I don't know. Sony ZX1, I think it is. But this, although it's very similar, that you can film longer on it and you can use it as a webcam, which is what I'm doing right now. And I've just invested in a microphone for the first time ever. And again, it's just a simple mic. Start off simple, because getting your head around YouTube and getting your head around it can be complex. Things like Canva for thumbnails, but thumbnails, I think if you're really good at doing thumbnails, are a really good idea. But again, I think more simpler thumbnails are coming out now. When I do the channelings, and I'll just put a picture of me in the middle and a picture either side of the person that I'm channeling. Those kind of thumbnails seem to be coming back in on YouTube. Simple thumbnails. Do it if you want to set up a channel. Do it. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes being Teflon, and it takes boundaries as well, real boundaries of what you're going to accept. Because I know there's channels out there when it's a free for all in the comments, and it's vile. It's really vile towards the person. towards the content, towards the commenters in the comment thread. You've got to have boundaries, and that's why I have boundaries on here. It's like my home. If somebody came into my home, YouTube is your home online. So nobody has the right to come into your space and berate you, but now and again they do. There's not many of them out there, but now and again they do. Got to have boundaries. Do it takes time. One of the things I made a mistake was when I first started, I had to delete a lot of content, was I filmed too much. And I think a lot of that was during lockdown, because I had time on my hands and I was learning about getting my craft up and learning and just getting my experience on YouTube up. But I got to a stage, was it just before Christmas, where I looked through my videos, I thought a lot of that needs to go, because they were all older videos. I wasn't at my best. The videos that I did at the time, I stood by, but then things change. And I thought, no, I need to clean up. So I always clean up my channel. I'll go through, and anything that's not doing well, anything that's probably outdated, like an outdated read, I'll take off, because otherwise it just blocks you up. So yeah, enjoy it and do it. It takes time, it takes confidence. But learn what works in your craft as well. Learn what works in your area. What people like. If it's cooking, what do they like cooking? If it's books, what do they like books? If it's tarots, what do they like in the tarots? One of the things on here that's coming in the future is me doing more celebrity reads, not just sticking to Meghan and Harry, because it bores me. It bores me. Bores me. The whole royal stuff bores me at the minute. So looking into more celebrity readings. So the subject, I don't know. So yeah, we're just trying politicals. Do we doing them more mixed? I'm not going to stop doing the royal readings, because I do enjoy them, but it just gets boring. But bringing in other things, because it can be so easy to go down one track when really that's good, but it can get boring for people. And don't be afraid to swap and change as well. That's why I do a mixture of things, because I just think it's boring. When you go on a channel, it's all the same thing. It just gets boring. One day it's a channeling, one day it's a tarot scope, one day it's an energy update, one day she's talking about Meghan. One day for me, that's what I like in a channel, where it's variety is a spice of life. So, how did you get into shamanism? I was doing my training with a shaman, and it was her that said, you need to do your shamanic training, because basically my Reiki sessions were turning into when it could have gone further. And my thoughts on that. If you're Reiki trained, you're Reiki trained. We don't start taking off entities and stuff with Reiki. Don't believe in it. I don't think it's acceptable. And she said, you need to start doing your shamanic training and take your craft to the next level. And I was already starting to go through like the initiations. My whole life, to be honest, was like a shamanic initiation. You go through traumas, you go through things, you go through a lot of dark night as a soul when you're on a shamanic path. And that's what irritates me, when people train to do something, then jump in and start calling themselves a shaman or a shamanic practitioner, because actually to walk the shamanic path is very unique. It can be very dark. It wasn't that dark for me, but it was dark enough at times. And I had a lot of moments of going into real shadow work, like even before I was aware of this work, going into my real shadow, having to face abandonment issues, abuse issues, etc. So the first course I did for shaman was a 6-month introduction course to shamanism. Then I did a year. There's different courses, and everyone does it differently. That's the thing. It's no one size fits all. It's that there's no shaman trains up the same way. They'll all do it very differently and unique to their heritage, their lineage. So it's what works for you. Some people do it over years. I'm not sure about if that's because I just don't know. It's just dragging it out. I remember my own process. I was glad that it was over a year. It was a class. It was a day's class every month for a year, and we worked on different topics. We did it on ourselves first, and then up to the first 6 months, and then we started working on each other, then bringing clients in and case studies. Yes, it's I've enjoyed it, and I'm grateful for all those times. Now, when I look back now, it is like two totally different people, and I'm so grateful that I've been on this path, that I've experienced this path, and that I've met all the people that I've met, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because they all got me ready for this point. Everyone that's triggered me, everyone that's abused me or took advantage or whatever, their soul contract was to get me ready for this, because in various different ways, because that's where you get your teaching from. Yes. How to protect your energies between readings. Protection is vast. Protection is vast. Number one, where do you start? No drinking alcohol, no taking recreational drugs, keeping up with your sleep, having your own basic protection, working with your guides, working with your spirit team of protection. I mean, I have things like sage. I've done all the questions on there. Yeah. I have things like sage and agua de Florida. Again, I'm seeing so many people using agua de Florida at the minute that aren't even shamanically trained. Agua de Florida is a shamanic water. And actually, what agua de Florida does, it calls in spirit. It calls in spirit to help the shaman or the shamanic practitioner. I've known people using it as perfume. It's not and it's about respecting. So for me, for my shamanic stuff and my readings, I'll use sage, I've got a Florida water. I've got different types of that. I've also got this from Angelic Celestial Colours. So say it's just a clear. This is the spiritual protection. And this is just a spritz of it. I've got an Archangel Michael spray in the bedroom. I've got some other stuff that I've got on order but hasn't arrived yet. Coarse sea salt around the boundaries of your property. But this was a question between readings. Open the window, smudging. I give myself time between readings, at least 30 minutes. So this is why I say about not seeing readers that just bang them in, the bang. More than 5 people in a day is crazy times. It's crazy. So I give myself time in between to go for a drink, to have something to eat, to rest, to recalibrate. When I start a reading, it's with the intention of not taking anything on from the other person. It's with the intention of not absorbing from the other person, if that makes sense. And anything I pick up in a reading, as in stuff, energies, not energies, but they're stories. Because when you're doing readings, there's a lot of stories come up, is I always get it wiped. So I forget about it. And that's the same with my healing, because otherwise you're just taking other people's stuff about you. And it can be quite, people are going through some dark stuff at the minute. Respecting your craft, respecting your space. This is my room, this is my space, this is in the house where it all happens, if that makes sense. I'm not, for although, see, my husband Gary used to share this room when we moved in and it wasn't working, because we do very different jobs, and I'd be here doing this, obviously not videos or client works. I'd go out, or he'd go out, we'd rotor it. But yeah, it didn't work because 2 very different jobs, very different energies. So yeah, does that answer the question? Sage, crystals, working with your team, opening a window, just yeah, and that's just the basic stuff. I mean, spiritual protection is just vast. There's the armor of God, there's white light, working with different colours, working with the Merkaba, all kinds of things, protection dolls, protection pillars you can do. Yeah, coarse sea salt around the boundary of your property, eggshells around the boundary of your property. Some people put lemons in the room to absorb things, etc., etc. Again, your spiritual protection is something you research and you Google, and you pick up what works for you, because what works for somebody, what works for me, may not work for you, and that's something we need to work with, because you've got different guides. You've got different guides that want to work differently. So yes, I said something about I've written the note boundaries on my thing. I think I wrote that earlier, didn't I? And I forgot what I was going to say about it. Anyway, I got asked a question, didn't I? How do you pick your cards? There we are, pick my cards. Very simple. How do you pick your cards, Claire? Right, are you ready? So you'll see me shuffle like that. And I asked my guide to take that hand, okay? And I asked my guide, my main guide, my chief, who, when he feels ready, to pick the card. Boundaries. Do you see how that works? Did you see? Do you see how things work? I've just said I've written the word boundaries, and he's just picked the boundaries card, which shows that he's listening. You see, honestly. So I'll show you again. Yeah. Yeah, and that's how I do it for client sessions. We take the card at the bottom for the overall meaning, or as just an extra bonus card. I mean, again, some people shuffle the cards and they'll, whoops, we'll shuffle the cards and you'll see them take them from the top. That's fine. And again, everyone reads them differently. There's no right or wrong way. I mean, some people will do that and they'll that, and you know, I've got OCD with cards and I can't do that unless spirit flip them, and they do flip them. We've seen it on videos. Claire, why do you not do reverse cards? Because I'm not dark. Ooh, controversial, Claire. If a reverse card is meant to come out, spirit will flip it. I think there's some channels on YouTube that thrive off the reverse cards. Ooh, a priestess has come out, it's reversed. Oh, lovers has come out, it's reversed. You know, towers come out, it's reversed. And they thrive off it. Do they pull that face as well? No, if I just don't. I like my cards to be in upright order. This has happened for personal sessions with clients, and it's happened for online stuff. You've seen my decks flip, you've seen cards flip out, you've even seen it where decks get knocked out of my hand because I'm not meant to use it and I'm not listening to what spirit want. So yes, that's why I don't do. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen organically. It won't happen because we need more subscribers. You know, yeah, we don't do drama. There's enough drama going on in the world without me manifesting it on the channel. Is that? What is that? That's little. What is that? Can you see that on the camera? Like a little. That'd be interesting. Did you see it? It's gone. It wasn't even like some cotton because it was like swirling. Anyway, let me know if you picked it up on the camera. What else from questions can I remember? Do you want to know some stuff about me? 40 years old. Favourite ice cream is chocolate. Favourite takeaway would be pizza. Uh, cheese chips. Garlic mayo. Don't have it all. Where we've moved now, we don't have access to many takeaways, so we very rarely have takeaways now. Favourite meal out would be a curry or nice Italian restaurant or a nice Indian. Favourite way to holiday would have been going on cruises, because I started going on cruises when I met my husband. Oh, should I tell you about when I went to the Vatican as well? Remind me to talk about the Vatican because I know people are desperate. But now we go on holiday in the UK because we're not up to date with. So we just holiday in the UK, and because the world's all out of sync at the minute. So yeah, we go on holiday in the UK, Northumberland and things like that. One of my first sessions of what is going on with myself was when I went to the VATICAN. I'm not going to keep repeating the word. And I just met Gary and he took me on a cruise. He took me on a cruise around the Med, and you're all like, wow, yeah, he did. And it was the first time I'd actually been abroad since the age of 7. Mum and Dad took me to Spain. And I think I nearly got kidnapped in Spain. I'll tell you that story in a minute. Anyway, it's an interesting story that actually it shows you the power of spirit. So he said, "All right." He booked it. It was a cruise around like Rome and Monaco. And I've been all around there. It was amazing. First time abroad since I was 7. Honestly, after years of difficulties and stuff, it was amazing. And he said to me, I booked as a trip, a personal trip around Rome, and I've booked as a trip because he knew at the time. At the time in 2015, I like to go on churches and castles and things. I've booked a trip to the VAT. Well, brilliant, yeah. And we went in. I remember we pulled up outside. I was like, "This is all huge, big. It's fine." And we walked in. And at the time I went, so that had been about 7 years ago. I remember walking through into the main foyer, and it'd been all like turnstiles you had to go through. And I was a bit edgy. Didn't do any of this work, then wasn't on the awakening path. Went in through the barriers, went into the vat, and I started with a panic attack. And literally, from stepping in to stepping out of the Sistine Sistine Chapel. It is a Sistine Chapel, isn't it? I was like this. And the Vatican, the vat, once you walk in it, you can't walk back out of it. You've got to stay where you are. And there were hundreds and thousands of people in there. And it was red hot. And literally, I couldn't breathe. I was shaking. There was sweat dripping off of me. I'd been all round Rome that day, and it was glorious weather, but it wasn't this. And I remember you go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, and more monuments, more rooms, and the guides, the guys that were the guides were just like not helpful. They were like patriarchal males, and I was just like couldn't breathe, could not breathe, and we I think you finished it. You went through the Sistine Chapel, right? So you goes into the Sistine Chapel, and it's probably one of the most famous churches in the world, and everyone's like, oh, which is fine, not judging it. Doors flew open. Claire stumbles through. Legs have gone. She's about to go down. Could not even stop it. Could not even stop it. I don't even know how I got out of that. I got out into like the courtyard. You know where you see him come out, and the people that work there. You see the circle and everything, and the people that go watch it, etc. I sat there, and my legs were shaking, and I was like, "What just happened?" And it was then once I started my awakening journey and learned about certain places of the world, etc., and certain things, and I was like, "Oh my God, you can't even make that up," because literally it was just a nightmare from start to finish. Yes, I know why now. I had that reaction because I said because things and that. Um, but yeah, these were it was brewing for years. I think there's lots of brewing with awakening, and then it happens. If that makes sense, there's a lot of brewing up, and then it happens. Um, and what else shall I cover while I'm here? So I like reading. I like going to the gym. Am I doing everybody's head in my playing with my thinger? I like gymming, doing a bit of walking, fresh air. Um, do you know about when I went to Windsors? Right. I'd always wanted to go to Windsor and Windsor with a Z, yeah? Right? And maybe an S instead of a Z, yeah? Algorithm. So, it's been controversial. We were planning. It must have been 2 years ago in September, and we'd booked holiday to work his way down to getting at a cruise, and probably the last cruise I went on. And my husband Gary says, "Oh, we've got." I think he said we've got some vouchers, or I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but he said he'd mapped it out because he always knew that I wanted to go to there. And so I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll go. It's been a dream come true. I want to go. I want to go." So we were driving, and I was surprised at how built up it is around there. So anyone that wants to know, it's not in the middle of the countryside like you think it is. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. You see it off the motorway, the main turret, but you also see like industrial estates. It's bizarre. It's not what you think. It's not in the middle of the country. It's just not. And I remember we drove past it, and I was like, oh. And I actually was a huge fan at that time, and I was like, what's going on? And I was sat in the car thinking, oh no, because I actually can tell the signs now of something coming with a building, because that's the work I do now. You see, that was part of my training, going into some of these places, learning about being sensitive to these energies is what is now helps with my work. So now if I went to somewhere like the VAT, it wouldn't affect me as much because there'd be things I can put around myself that can stop that. Anyway, moving on. So we got into the car park, and we got into the car park near the river, and he went off to pay the money for the car park. And I was stood in the car park looking up to the castle. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I And this is what I mean. I went there a huge, 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 huge fan. And I was like, I don't want to go. And I thought, how am I going to explain it to him? Not that he's not bad, but it's just we'd planned to go out, and it was in a place where I don't think there was much more to do. And it was just like, and I went, I don't really want to do this. And he was like, well, we've paid for parking out. We'll go for something to eat. It'll be fine. And as we're walking up, my legs were just shaking. And it was you walk up like a hill from the Wherwig, and it skims round to the statue of Queen Vic. And we got outside the main gates of it, and my husband said, "Right, I'll go and take pictures for you." But the funny thing was, the day that we'd chosen to go, it was all closed. You couldn't go around it because we were going to go into the gates and go around everywhere, the castle bit, church, etc., where Haz and M got married, Haz and Meg, where they got married, etc. I stood outside the main gates where you saw Will and Harry come out just before his wedding. You know the main gates of it. You've seen it on news loads of times. And I just started to shake, really shake. And I said to Gar, and he actually was enjoying it, was taking pictures, and I said, I can't stand it. I can't stand here. I said, I can't stand. I've got to go. So he was like, okay, then we'll go around the shops. Shops were the same. Went past where Charles and Camilla got married. The registry office nearly gipped up. Honestly, not joking. And I love quaint places, old places, and I just had me. The whole of Windsor had me. The whole of it had me. And you're saying to me, aren't you? I can hear you. Why didn't you go? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why we didn't go. It was almost like I needed to see, I needed to feel something. Or anyway, so it just went. That the feeling did not diminish until even like the places round it, it just didn't diminish until I got into the hotel room. We'd gone. Where'd we gone? Where'd we stayed? I can't remember. It was premiering. It was away from Windsor, but yeah, and it took me a full 24 hours to come back after that. And if you'd have been following me back then, I stopped doing readings on RF and all kinds of things. It's only now that I found a place of being able, and why am I telling you this? Because you're going to all go through experiences like this on your journey. You're going to have all these experiences where you feel certain things, sense certain things. Sometimes you won't understand what it is, and sometimes it'll really have an effect on you for weeks, months, years, or whatever. Which this too shall pass. And then you get to a point where you can make sense of that, understand it, heal it, and release it. And then be able to sit and be able to talk about it like it's, not being even be able to watch certain people on telly, but then you get to a point where you can work through it is a big part of your awakening journey. And for you, it could be all of a sudden you see something in Celebland that triggers you. You see something within the illiteracy world that triggers you. You see something within daytime television that triggers you, or a program that you watch that you find you can't watch anymore. And then you've got to go away and feel what you're feeling as well. Because you'll get a lot of people saying you shouldn't be feeling like that. They're lovely. But you know what you feel, and you've got to trust what you feel. What was I picking up that day? Many different things, and it'd be unfair to start sitting here because many different things. I mean, places where castles are can be quite heavy places anyway. I mean, castles have had battles and bloodshed and all kinds of things. But yeah, I'm answering that because that's been a question that's come through because sometimes I mention it in readings. And I actually am in a better place because now, like when the event happens in May that's coming, I am more in a better place now to watch it because I used to be like a freaky fan. I used to be a freaky fan. Like when I can remember when Will and Catherine got married, like I lived at home with my parents and I had balloons up and flags. It was that over the top. Police kept driving past all day just to watch us because they couldn't believe that somebody had, in the middle of a council estate, back then done that at the house with Union Jacks and balloons, and I had a wedding cake made. I had a copy of Kate's engagement dress that I wore, all kind of fascinating and everything. Sat there with a honestly off. But that was who I was back then. And so when the next event happens in May this year, um, yeah, I'm going to watch it, but I'm going to watch it from a point of view through a different lens, through a much more balanced lens. Because I'm not the super duper fan, but I'm not the big scary, they're this, they're that, blah, blah, blah. I became after going to Windsor. I'm going to be more balanced. And actually, that's part of my journey. And I'm going to watch it for you guys as well. Yeah. Let me know in the comments. You think Harry's going to, what's it called? What have I read lately? That he's got propositions to do American TV to be. I actually think he'd be good at that. Anyway, let's see what happens. Anything else we can go into while I'm here? I don't know. How long have we been talking? So I've answered some questions there. Thank you for watching. We'll do these more often. We'll get together and have a chat, and we'll talk about things, and we'll welcome to some new subscribers that we've got on here. Mixture of readings, mixture of work. Who we're channeling next? Reggie and Ronnie Cray. And who else was it? I have a radar, and I've always about 3 people on that radar. So we've got Reggie and Ronnie Cray coming in this weekend. It'll be this weekend when I do it. Then I want to do Richard III. He's coming in, Richard III. Princess Margaret came in last night, and I wasn't expecting that. I was sat online on my tablet in bed, and boom, up she came. And one of the things she wants to talk about is being the spare and how it affects people going forward, and how it's going to play out in the future, and her experiences of being the spare, and about the trauma, because it's not just about being the spare in that family, it's about being the spare in any family, because there's always the first. I was the firstborn. I'm William. Do you want to know this about me as well? I was due to be born on the same day as William, but I was due to be born on the 21st of June 1982, and I was born on the 26th. So I was meant to be born on the same day as William. You can just see us fighting his way through. Get out of it. Get out of it. He won, being the king. Only joking. So yeah, she wants to talk about the spare syndrome. Ooh, should we call it that? The spare syndrome that can happen in any family. And that the issues that the second, let's call it, well, it's a second child syndrome, isn't it? Not there's just a spare, but it's a second child syndrome, and explaining some things dynamic. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Is she going to come through after the Crays? I think she'll like the Crays, actually, Anne. Not Anne, Margaret. Because they were part of the same London scene, weren't they? The same social scenes, didn't they? All, anyway, intermingled. So Princess Margaret will be interesting. I didn't ever expect to channel her. Princess Margaret, Richard III. Craze. It'll either be Princess Margaret then, and then it'll be Richard III. Okay, and then I think I've got time booked off. If you want to book a session with me, if you're new to my channel, all my social media stuff is below. Website, email, Instagram page, Facebook page. If you want to buy yourself some Tropic, I bet you forgot to spoke about Tropic at the beginning of this one. It's meant to have a better zoom on it, this. Not so good with these boxes, but yeah, it's got a better zoom on than the last one. Yeah, if you want to book a session with me, fully booked now until May, but that's a good sign. That is a good sign. So thank you for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope I've covered. We'll do these. We'll try and do them every 2 or 3 months where we get together, have a chat, and I'll share some stuff I've bought, talk about some things. I will put the Boleyns in the 10K giveaway. Maybe anyway. Interesting. That's interesting. I mean, even like talking about Margaret, I'm just sad to say that she's very much different in spirit as to what she was on the earth plane. Ooh, getting the message of sometimes the body can be a prison to the soul. That might be something she wants to talk about. People that feel trapped in their body, or souls that come in and it's almost like, and they just implode in their life because it's like, oh. And it can be like addiction and trauma and pain, and souls that struggle with the earth. And oh, is she going to be a soul that struggles with the earthly journey, with the being on earth? Many people do struggle with earth. Anyway, stop waffling. Tip Bangor to turn you off. Right. Thank you for watching. See you later. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you tomorrow. Bye. Have I turned you off? Nope. See, this is what happens when you do a new system recording.